Hey, today I'm going to do a review on my new rifle. It is an 1891 Argentine Mauser. It was built in Germany and exported to Argentina in 1891. So in Argentina, they had an arms race between Argentina and Chile in the turn of the century. So the best firearms producers were coming from Europe, and the best of all time were the Mauser brothers. And so this is an 1891 Argentine Mauser. And I gotta say, I give this rifle an A+. I fired it for the first time yesterday, and we had a blast, and it was a lot of fun. Granted, this is a 115-year-old rifle. My serial number indicates that it was probably built between 1893 and 1894. But still, it's a G series, so actually they were able to work out some of the bugs. There was a couple things going on up until the E series. So basically it's 4 digits, and they went A, 4 digits, B, and so on. So this was basically 40,000 right here. So I know that Argentina ordered about 200,000 of these in their first order, and possibly a little bit more. Some of the 1891s and the 1909s are going to be carbines. They're going to be a little bit shorter for the cavalry, which are pretty cool too. The 1909s, I definitely recommend picking up too. Now, if you're in the market for a cheap rifle, this is the one right here. Now, a lot of you are familiar with the Russian Mosin Nagants. They were built around the same time, and they incorporate a lot of the same features. However, the quality here compared to the Mosin Nagants is unsurpassed. You just don't have the metal to wood fine tuning. The craftsmanship is just unbelievable. The metallurgy is really good. I mean, it's up to par with modern style. Most modern firearms, especially bolt action, all incorporate Mauser style bolt actions. Basically, the Mauser brothers were one of the first people to really incorporate any of this. They basically invented this style, and over the process of a couple years and a couple models, they really fine-tuned the weapon, and they basically got to a point where they really couldn't make it any better. And so it's amazing that 115 years later we're still using the same style bolt, and we really haven't been able to progress further beyond that. It's just really an indicator of their genius. And basically the Mauser brothers are really interesting because when you think of 1800s firearms, you think of, musket balls, black powder, stuffing it in, one shot, people lining up in lines, and all that. Well, the Mauser brothers saw firearms of the time, and they said, that sucks, man. I can make that better. And they did. They went out and they made a better firearm. And they made that better firearm, and they tweaked it. And over the years, many, many models. The 1891 is a superb model. I fired it for the first time. I had a few problems with feeding, but aside from that, and I learned that the cartridges really like to sit on the forward side of the magazine, I was naturally putting them back. I just thought, that's how they want to be. But I think they really want to sit on the forward side of the magazine. When I did that, there wasn't any problems. But, it's the only downside to these things. The cartridges are very expensive. There's only 2 companies in the world still making them. One's from Serbia. They're the cheapest. That's why I bought my ammo from. So I'll post a video clip after this clip of me shooting, and you're going to notice that I'm watching every single casing come out of the gun because I want to keep track of it because I'm going to be doing reloading. You can also take 30-06 casings, you can saw them off, you can resize them, and you can reload with that. So that'll solve all your problems. If you have the equipment and you have the know-how, by all means, reload. Just be careful with your powder and your grain weight bullets and all that. What to say about this? Okay, so Argentina, after they were done with them as time progressed in the 1950s, a lot of them were imported into the United States. At that time, before they did that, the Argentine government ground off 2 crowns on the gun. They were Argentine crowns, one here on the receiver and one here on the stock. Now mine is a model that was ground off. Now the ones that have the crown intact are going to go for a little bit more money. But you know what? It doesn't really necessarily state anything about the firearm and its ability to shoot. So don't let that be a downside. I bought this gun as a shooter, not as a collector's item. If you're collecting a gun and you're just going to put it in a gun case, you might as well look for a gun with the crown. And it's nice to have. I wish mine had it, but it doesn't. And you know what? It doesn't affect the firearm's performance in any way. It's got a 5-round fixed magazine. You can take it apart. You can take the whole thing apart. It's a lot of make sense stuff. It's a little bit time consuming. I'd say the hardest part about disassembling the firearm is the bolt carrier group. It's I don't want to say it's easily disassembled, but there's a couple tricks. So if you're going to disassemble it, there's some good YouTube videos out there, so watch them. The 1909 solved a lot of the problems with the 1891. One being disassembling the bolt. The 1909 had a 3-position safety. This has a 2-position safety. The 3rd position would be straight up, and that would allow you to easily disassemble the bolt carrier group. Also, the extractors on these can be a little bit weak. I think there's a history of, I mean, obviously it's 115 years old. It hasn't broken, but I'm sure there were occurrences of the extractors breaking off, and they're not easy to replace, especially nowadays. So the 1909 has really, covered all the ground on strengthening the entire gun. So I definitely recommend it. It's got great iron sights. It's out to 2,000 meters, which is a little bit, I don't know. It's a little bit. You're not going to be shooting things at 2,000 meters, but it's great to have. So nice elevation adjustment, very accurate. The bore on this is in great shape. Many of these were never deployed, so you're going to find a lot of them to be in good shape. It depends on who bought them and whose home they sat in. A lot of them just sit. Some people fired them, but assuming they were well taken care of, they're a perfectly good firearm to go and shoot today. Now you can pick these up for under $150. I wouldn't pay more. One's with the crown, and one's in really good shape. This one's got some dullness and I don't want to say corrosion, but it's got markings that eat into the finish on the stainless. Now it's definitely not collector's quality. There's nothing wrong with going out and buying a collector's quality Argentine Mauser. It's going to be beautiful, but it's going to be a little bit more expensive. So you're looking around, top quality Argentine Mauser, you're looking about $350, which still isn't that much. One of the requirements I had when I bought this rifle, I was looking for a cheap rifle, I was looking for a bolt-action rifle, and I was looking for something that had a minimum of a 5-round capacity. Now this met all the standards, but another thing that I was looking for is I wanted a straight bolt handle, because I'm left-handed, so I have to reach around, and this is really easy for me. Being left-handed, not a problem. Now if it was curved down, that'd be more of an issue. This being a battle rifle, they did not incorporate scopes. So, if this had been another modern firearm, you're going to have a downward-facing handle, and that's going to be a little bit more difficult for me. So if I was going to go with something like that, I would be wanting to purchase a new firearm that was going to be actually left-handed for me, which is going to run $600, $700, $800. So I was really looking for something with good iron sights, bolt action with a straight handle, 5-round capacity, cheap, and on top of that, the cool thing is you get a piece of firearms history. So it'll open your eyes. There's a lot to research about these, and there's a lot to learn about the whole history of firearms is based on this weapon right here and the Mauser brothers. So they changed the face of the earth, and a lot of people are familiar with the Mosin Nagants, the Russian firearm, and those have something to say for them as well. But you're not going to find the same quality that you're going to find here, and they're going to run about the same price as this does. But the Russians made millions, literally millions of Mosin Nagants, and many of which were deployed. They're in rough shape. They're covered in cosmoline, which is good, because the cosmoline is basically a layer of gel, almost feels like Vaseline. You pick up a weapon that's covered in cosmoline, and you know it. It's going to be sticky. You basically have to disassemble the whole entire firearm and get that cosmoline off. And it is toxic, so make sure you wash your hands. I was lucky enough to not have cosmoline on this. I did hear that a lot of the Mausers were covered in cosmoline as well, but this one I was lucky that some previous owner down the way had taken care of that issue for me. I did disassemble it, looked the whole thing over. I called the gunsmith, went over my firearm with him on the phone. I looked at everything. He said he gave me the A+, the go-ahead to shoot. So I did proceed with caution. My first shot, I held at the hip and I turned my head away. And I could have been safer. I could have sandbagged it, went away with a string, and fired it 30, 40 feet away. But I had some pretty good feelings about this rifle. I really wasn't concerned about safety. We had a lot of fun shooting it. The bore's in pretty damn good condition for a 115-year-old rifle. I'd say it shot right on, and it's got a little bit of kick to it. It's it's an interesting cartridge. It probably lies within like the range of around a 303. Not as powerful as a 30-06 by any means, but definitely up there in the medium caliber. Another thing with the Russian guns, if you're looking for a cheap rifle, a Mosin Nagant is definitely a good option for you. But you're going to find, I would suggest holding one of these and then holding one of those. Play around with them. You're going to find that the Mosin Nagants are not as user-friendly, and you're not going to find the fine craftsmanship that you find here in the Argentine Mausers. One thing that with all Russian firearms, they're going to have really low cheek welds. So you want to be able to put your cheek on the stock, and that's going to stabilize your eye. For some reason, all the Russian firearms, they really like low cheek welds. So you're basically free floating your head, and that can be a little bit difficult. And it's nice because the recoil is not going to hit you in the face, so you do have to be a little bit careful. I did get a minor bruise. I got one that kind of tapped me a little bit. It's a sensitive area. But, I placed my head a little further back and it wasn't a problem. But, the AKs, the 74 and the 47, and the SKS and the Mosin Nagants are all going to have that low cheek weld, which really isn't going to give you a nice platform the rest of your cheek, especially when you're dealing with iron sights, and especially a bolt action long rifle, which are really, its main purpose is accuracy. So, I can see an AK-47 where you have a low cheek weld and you're kind of just floating it and you're kind of just spraying. But something like this is a great deer hunting rifle, and it's just a fun shooter all around. So a lot of people get these and they rechamber them, and there's a good reason that they do that. It's because the ammo is very hard to find. Well, it's out there, but it's very expensive. 2 companies in the world still make it, but and you can get it, and it's actually with all the ammo craze out there, it's actually easier to find the 9mm right now. But there's only 3 firearms in the world that shoot this caliber. And there's only 2 companies in the world that still make it. But luckily, there was hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them. There's still people out there shooting them today because they're such a well-built firearm. They're functioning just the same way that they were built, the day that they were built. So, if you're looking for an affordable rifle, something that's going to be accurate, something that you maybe want to go hunting with, or you just want to go plinking, I would definitely recommend this. And I would definitely recommend keeping an eye on your casings. Collect your casings afterwards, and you're going to see, I'm going to play a video, and you're going to watch me, I'm looking after all my casings, and I did miss one. But, collect them, because I am planning on reloading these. And, I must say, so all around, I give this firearm an A+. I recommend it to anyone, whether they're beginner or they're, advanced and have a lot of experience with firearms. But it's really fun to own a piece of firearms history. And you'll be really proud of this rifle, and you have a lot of fun shooting it. So, when you go out and get one of these, I would recommend picking one of these up as well, and you can shoot these with basically anything. It's a reactive target. They're a little expensive, 20 bucks at Cabela's, but we actually hung this from a tree, and every time you hit it, it flings around, and it's a lot of fun. So, it'll just add that fun to your shooting experience. So, pick up a 1891 Argentine Mauser. And also look into the 1909s. So do some research on them. I think you'll find the history very interesting. And it's a lot of fun to talk about and look at and take apart and disassemble and shoot. And it's also a lot of fun to learn the history behind these things. So, go out, have fun, be safe.